Hi, I'm Sean Beavan. I'm a producer, mixer. Have been doing it for a long time. I've worked with many acts over the years, no doubt. System of a Down, 9 Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, who I happen to be mixing right at this moment. So they were kind enough, the people at Kemper were kind enough to give me an amp, send it out to me to have me take a look at it. And of course, I got a call from Manson the next day to mix the record. So I've been furiously trying to get through the Manson record and be able to get my hands on this tasty little amplifier. My first impression is very quickly it was very easy to work on. I brought it up, I mean literally plugged it in, brought it up, sounded great, so I was like, okay, this sounds great. And then I was like in the middle of a mix and Manson was kind of interested in working on this chorus to try to make it just come a little bit more alive. And so I was listening, I thought maybe the guitars on the track were kind of, they were a little super scooped, you know, and I thought, well, maybe it could benefit from, you know, just some kind of harmonic content in the lower mid-range, that, you know, a different kind of amplifier sound. And so I thought, well, I'll just try this unit in there, and quickly was able to get like mega variations in sounds, and like each one was extremely usable. And what I really enjoyed about it was because of the size of the unit, you can place it like in the sweet spot, start dialing it up, and I mean literally with the presence knob going like 0.5, 0.6, all of a sudden it was like boom, in the track, like perfect, you know. And that, I mean, usually you're tearing your hair out, you know, with it, and going from sounds that were completely different, like, you know, Marshall to Boogie to Soldano to, you know, and it's like, and getting, like, hearing the differences specifically, like, mega fast in the track, and then being able to tweak them very microtonally, but make it perfect, you know what I mean? It was really nice. Much easier than setting up an amp in the other room, putting up some mics, going back and forth, testing. Why is the phase wrong on this? You know, like, it was just super sweet, super easy to do. Yes, I kind of would dial through the profiles, and like if something sounded very interesting, I would like go to that one kind of first. And it was like a thing of also my intellectual curiosity, not just on, because it comes with some very interesting sounds, and you know, very usable. And of course, there's one, Black Sabbath, that I was like, oh my God, you know, went to it immediately and started playing War Pigs and was like, yes! It was so funny. It's like, so not what I needed to do at the moment, but it was so fun. But it was, I mean, when I first heard it, I was like, oh my God, there's the plate reverb on the guitar that, you know, Iommi always uses, and it's pretty cool. So I knew right there that the unit was going to be like, oh, this will be really fun. But it was super easy to dial up and then go through and go like, oh, well, what if I wanted to tweak that, or what would it sound like with a stomp box on it? And it was funny because, I mean, it comes with a little sheet of paper that says, guitarists, go to the website to download the manual or whatever, and I was like, oh, I got to do that, you know. But actually going through it, I didn't even go to the manual and got everything I really needed. So it was like, that's cool. And I'm sure I definitely will have to go to the manual to learn how to profile and stuff. But like what you're saying with the user groups online, it's like, you know, I'll be able to trade profiles with all kinds of people. And one of the cooler things is being able to do it with bands on the road. Like, that would be very cool. So, you know, and Manson was really, I was talking to him about it last night. I had a party. It's my 50th birthday, so I'm very happy about that. And Manson, exactly. And Manson was really excited about it because he was thinking, like, what a great way to try to grab all the sounds from how he made sounds on the record and put it into one amplifier, and then take that on the road. You know, so he could have one, like Twiggy could have one, and they could kind of get the specific sounds they had on the record, you know, into one unit and do it. And that's like, you know, and because they run the gamut when Manson's doing a record. He runs the gamut of, you know, the sound is a foot pedal going through the console, or, you know, it's a like a 1990 Zoom Fire Direct, you know, or a plus 13 amp, or a, you know, Marshall amp or whatever, and it's so varied, and trying to create those kinds of sound differences like on a tour is almost impossible. But what this would kind of offer is, you know, invaluable. No, I'm just playing. Like most of the stuff, especially on a Manson record, there everything is very, very artistically done. So it's like it's one shot, one idea. They don't do a DI and 5 amps and blah, blah, blah. It's like get a sound and that inspires them and they go. So it was definitely, I had to learn the part and then play it, you know what I mean? So, but it was, you know, super easy to do and extraordinarily rewarding because it's like one of those things where it's like immediately I had 3 or 4 sounds that I was like, wow, like each one of them does that thing and you realize, oh, and it lifts the track this way, but it doesn't have this part of what the old guitars had, and then tweak, play it again, and it's like, oh, now that gets the, you know, it gets all the tonality I want, but it also has the crunch, you know what I mean? You could get that low body reactance kind of sound, you know, which is not easy to do, especially on a unit that's not, you know, it's not when you're in front of the amp and playing it. It definitely, you know, it has that feeling from the body of the guitar, but I was pretty amazed at what I could get just by the way I was muting, how it would react, and harmonically how it would react. That was the thing about it that was kind of impressive, was just how, you know, when you're playing a guitar in a really great room, you get that like kind of magical harmonic thing happening. Well, it was kind of happening just in front of the speakers, and if I turn up the speakers a certain way, I could get all the kind of feedback I needed, and it wasn't that bright kind of brittle, you know, feedback. It was rich, warm feedback, you know. You know, the Virus is amazing. You know, it's one of those keyboards that's just infinitely changeable, and it's almost too much for me. You know, I'm like a simple mixer. You know what I mean? Like, but it, like anything I need to do, it's just easily done, and you know, it syncs immediately to anything I'm working on. It's, you know, and besides, it just looks cool. I gotta say, the white is just so hot. You know. Yeah, because it is I think the attention to detail and the attention to sound. Because I remember when I bought my first Access Virus, was, you know, the venerable Virus. It was a Virus B I had, which, you know, still to this day has some of the greatest filters I've ever heard. Like, it's just so fun. I mean, I can't tell you how many records I've spun those knobs and made that happen. You know. And this one obviously continued it, and you know, and it has the same kind of feeling of they really paid attention to the sound and not just the tweaking. You know what I mean? It's like what it actually sounds like, because when you play the things through, it just sounds right, sounds warm, sounds wonderful. You know, it doesn't sound that, it doesn't have that feeling, that it doesn't have the cushion of space behind it. You know what I mean? Like, there's always that thing when you're working with acoustic sounds, where you feel the subharmonics, you feel the movement of the sound through the physical space. You know what I mean? And there's a depth to it, and there's kind of a brick wall on some of the more like sampled and digital stuff. But with the Virus especially, that keyboard doesn't ever feel like you've got that flat wall. It's like there's just depth to everything, you know, and that's one of the things I loved about the Access stuff. And then the Kemper has that same thing, where when you're playing it, you don't feel that, you feel it kind of extruding from the speaker. You don't feel it coming from a flat plane from the speaker, you know what I mean? And that is an amazing thing, you know, that's what I love about it. It's yeah. I'll turn. It's down pretty low. I will go from. I'll play an original, like the original guitars, and then the 2 that I was doing. And if the original guitars, you hear them, that's got intensity, very, very scooped, very, you know, Manson. You know? So it has that kind of vibe to it. And I was thinking that I wanted something that would kind of poke out a little more harmonically in the upper mids and in the lower mids, not be so high and low. And this really had a nice intensity when it comes in. It has that like throaty mid grind to it that I really like, and it brought up the kind of sexiness of the swing. You know what I mean? That all I could say about it. And then this is kind of like the in between the two, was the idea of like I wanted something that had that kind of like almost rock and roll guitar sound, right? Compared to the super scooped, high end, And this is kind of my balance between the two of them. And it's like when we get to that part, you can get the you know what I mean? And it has all that vibe. Plus, it's got the mid-range character that seems to lift the chorus instead of fold it in like the original guitars. It seems to kind of collapse a little bit. These guitars, it comes out fast. And it took 10 minutes. You know what I mean? God, I love that. Everybody, thanks so much for giving me this opportunity to kind of wax poetic about the beautiful Kemper Profiling Amplifier. Buy this, grab some great amplifiers and sample some stuff, and then send it to me. I'll love it. Thank you so much.